Hi everyone.
Welcome to our channel.
My name is Alyssa.
And my name is Daniel.
Our daughter's name is Charlotte, and we are the Foley family. Our small family of 3 is making the big move to the beautiful New Zealand.
Follow our journey and learn more information about the reasons and processes that got our Midwest family of 3 to move over 8,000 miles to the land of the Kiwis.
On this channel, we will make content following our journey from Missouri to New Zealand and everything along the way, as we are
Newly New Zealand.
Say good morning. Welcome to the special guest, Miss Charlotte Ann. She wanted to make her appearance on camera and say hello to everyone. Say hi, Sissy. Hi. She really wants to touch the light, and she can't wait to be in more videos. Say nice to meet you. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, so kicking off the next video, hope you enjoyed the special guest appearance of little Miss Charlotte. She's getting definitely way too big, way too fast. She is going to be 10 months next week on April 6th and already almost at a full run. So she definitely needs to slow down because mom and dad are not catching a break. So before we get started, just a couple things. First and foremost, I want to apologize for this video taking so long. We've been super busy with the whole process of moving to New Zealand. We actually sold and closed our house, went on a vacation to Colorado, which we are going to share about in a future video, went up to St. Louis, which is about a 3-hour drive to get medicals done, which is something I'm going to cover more in this video. So just been on the go 24/7. So finally getting time to just sit back and record some videos. Another thing, just kind of want to go over before we get started on this video. By no means are my husband and I experts on New Zealand. We have never been there. So anything that we are talking about are things that we have learned about through research, from talking to New Zealanders. That's just about it. Again, we've never been there. So we know in a lot of our videos we're talking about how amazing New Zealand's going to be. Of course, we are not so oblivious to think that New Zealand is going to be perfect. We know that there are going to be things in New Zealand that we don't agree with, just like here in America. So again, by no means do we think that we are going to be there, go there and it's going to be a walk in a park. We know that there are going to be struggles just like here in the United States. So we just don't want anyone to think that, again, we think that we are going to go there and things are going to be absolutely perfect, because by no means we don't know. So just kind of wanted to go over that before we got started. So today's video, we are going to talk about the steps that Daniel and I have taken so far to get to where we are in this process. I am going to make a short video after this to talk about the steps specifically for teaching in New Zealand, so be on the lookout for that. Should be posted in a day or so as well. So just going to get started. So very first step that we took was, of course, lots and lots and lots of research to get to the decision that we even wanted to look into moving to New Zealand. Some of the research included talking to Tara from the Kiwi Americans YouTube channel. She actually offers consultations, which was about 30 New Zealand dollars to have a 1-hour session with her where you could ask her questions, just go over her experiences with moving to New Zealand from the United States as well. So that was super beneficial for us. Another person we talked to was someone that lived in Hamilton, actually a family friend who was from the United States. He's working in the technology sector in New Zealand. So again, hearing things from his point of view, just really getting all of that research intake possible to help our decision process. After that, we started looking into some companies that would help us with the teaching in New Zealand process. We had absolutely no idea what we needed to get started. In doing research, we came across a company called EP Education. This is a free service where you will submit some sort of like an application, a brief synopsis of who you are as an educator, and they will just let you know some of the types of ways that you can get to New Zealand, and then the steps that you have to take specifically to be able to be recognized as a teacher in New Zealand. The very first thing that they told us that we needed to do to be able to get our qualifications recognized was to go through the NZQA qualification step. So that was one of the next things that we did. That just means that we need to get our United States qualifications, our degrees recognized in New Zealand to make sure they transfer over. Luckily, both my bachelor and master's degree transferred over, and Daniel's bachelor's degree transferred over. So no worries there. We are 100% recognized as teachers in New Zealand. Cost for the NZQA qualifications assessment, it's about $650. That is New Zealand dollars per person to get that recognized. And I believe that took around 4 weeks, so about 30 working days in New Zealand to get those results back. And it's easy. They just come back on your site, and you can click and download those results to your computer or wherever you want them. After that, the next step to get recognized as a teacher in New Zealand is to get your New Zealand teacher's registration and practicing certificate. So that is the next thing we worked on. With that, there's a whole bunch of information that you need to collect. And again, I can go more in depth in this on the teaching specifically video, but I don't want to get too far in depth on this one. But that's just submitting some information to the New Zealand Teaching Council, as well as those qualifications, going over what we did here in the United States as teachers. And then once that is processed, you are awarded your New Zealand teaching license and practicing certificate, which just says that, hey, you're good to go. You are able to teach in New Zealand. So that is what we did there. Throughout this process, of course, we had to, as well, is get our passports. Daniel already had his passport, but I had to get mine. And we also had to get Charlotte's, which is something I did not know you had to do for an infant. Passport prices for me, about $225 US. I did get it expedited, so it came in as quick as possible. And Charlotte was about $195. I did get hers expedited as well. So going through this process, of course, you have to work with immigration to get visas to be able to legally go into New Zealand. This is something that you can do 100% on your own. You can file those applications. You can go through that whole process on your own. Daniel and I did choose to work with an immigration agency to make sure that worked. That process was more smooth for us. You know, there's so many things that we have to do on our end on this side to get ready to move to New Zealand. So we just want to make sure that that wasn't something we were stressing out about. So working with a company that would really handle all of that for us is something that we did and something we are doing. So highly recommend that. We are working with a company called New Zealand Shores, and they have been absolutely fantastic, great in communication, great in answering our questions, setting up Zoom calls with us just to go over everything, because again, this is something that is totally different for us. So it's just been super beneficial having them there throughout the process. So with that, immigration costs for New Zealand Shores, and again, this really varies for how many people you have in your family, type of visa. For us specifically, it's anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 New Zealand dollars. Again, that is not an expense that you have to do, but it's just something that we're okay with spending that extra money to make sure the process was going and that we were doing all of the steps that we needed to do. When working with New Zealand Shores, they tell us everything we need to do, all of the things we need to send them, so they are ready to file that application to get our visa. They also, which was amazing, took our United States resume and cover letter and converted it to a New Zealand CV, they call it. The resume CV style is very different between the United States and New Zealand. So that was something that they took the weight off our shoulders to do, and they did that conversion for us 100%. They also added a specific letter onto our cover letter saying that they represented us, and if any employers had any questions, to reach out to them. That is great, because sometimes employers get a little scared when they see a person that is not in New Zealand applying, because they are unsure, if we are even going to be able to migrate to work for them. So seeing that we have that representation from an immigration agent saying, hey, we can come as soon as we get a job offer, that's just great having that. So going through this process, after we had the CV and the cover letter, we started applying for jobs. There are several websites where you can apply for jobs. The biggest one is Education Gazette, and that has all of the public and private sector jobs in New Zealand. So Daniel and I applied and applied and applied and applied. And when I said applied over and over again, oh my gosh, we probably applied for 100 plus jobs. At the time we were going through this, and of course now with COVID, the border has been closed, so a lot of employers were apprehensive to employ us because they weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it over there. Going through this, we were super lucky, and it really fell in our pocket that we found a company to work for that was actually recruiting people from overseas to migrate to their country. So A+, we got a job there. After we got the job offer, we reached back out to our immigration agent just to keep her updated with what was going on. She had to collect some more items from us, passport photos again, proof of like that we can financially handle ourselves over in New Zealand, just a whole bunch and plethora of documents to show that, you know, we can make it there. One of the things that was included in the information we had to send over was fingerprinting. We had to get fingerprints from the FBI. To do that, it was about $18 per person to get registered in that FBI database, and then $22 per person to get those fingerprints and send them over to the FBI. They just want to make sure that we don't have any criminal offenses, so we are good to go in New Zealand. Another thing that I had mentioned before is the medical. With New Zealand having free healthcare, they just want to make sure that we are coming to New Zealand with no pre-existing medical issues. So it is a pretty intensive medical examination just to make sure that we are healthy. You have to work with a panel doctor, and the immigration agency sent us a website to find one. The closest one was in St. Louis, so about 2.5, 3 hours away from us. So we had to go up there. Daniel, I, and Charlotte all had to get a medical. They are pretty expensive, and I believe they last for only 6 months. So you have to get one after you get your job offer so it doesn't run out and you don't have to pay again. It is $500 American dollars per person, per adult for Daniel and I, and it was $120 to $5 for Charlotte. They're just going over past medical history. You have to get a chest x-ray, so on and so forth. Some blood work, and then once the doctor gets that back, you submit that over again to your immigration agent. That's kind of where we are at currently, just waiting on the visa process to get completed. Once we have that visa in hand, we will go ahead and buy those plane tickets and get going. A few other things, of course, some future steps. Rentals. You, of course, want to look at a rental when you are moving to New Zealand. A lot of people had mentioned you can get an Airbnb or stay in a hotel for a little bit if you want to actually look in person at places. But Daniel and I wanted to make sure we had something secured before we actually got there. That just makes us feel a little bit better. A rental kind of fell into place with us. I had someone message me who was working for the same company that we were actually going to work at. They were wanting to move to Australia and wanting someone to rent their house that they could trust. They were going to leave it fully furnished, which is something we were looking for because we are not really going to bring very much. They actually had 2 little girls, so they had furniture for children, cribs, toys, so it really just fell into our pockets. So we have that rental going. So that's another thing that is off our checklist. And then, of course, thinking about what you're going to bring, what you're going to ship, how you are going to do that. Daniel and I did a lot of research on this and came to the conclusion that we are pretty much going to sell everything we have. To even share a 20-foot shipping container, it's about $9,000 starting price. And of course that goes up from there as you are shipping it. And some things may get lost. You don't really know how long it's going to take. So that's just really not a risk we wanted to take. So we are only going to be bringing what will fit in our suitcase. So selling a lot of stuff here. So it's just been super busy. But again, these are the steps that we have taken so far, and I'm going to make that second video getting more in depth on those specific teaching steps that you have to do. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We are super excited. But again, I appreciate you guys watching our videos. Feel free to like and subscribe if you are interested in the content, and just follow our journey.